Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. It's the holiday week and really just the beginning of the holiday period. So, first off, I want to go ahead and wish everybody a great holiday. Hope you all have a fantastic time with your family, your friends, or whomever. Hope you all do have a just fantastic holiday this year. But as always, we have a lot of things to talk about. We got news over the weekend that PlayStation is going to dabble with yet another handheld, and this sounds a lot more exciting than the PlayStation Portal, albeit I do enjoy that device thanks to its new update. But we're going to talk about all of that today. Then also a possible PlayStation showcase that Sony is seemingly teasing themselves. And then Xbox got some really interesting news as well, as a big-time game, or in this case, several big-time games, was maybe possibly teased for Xbox consoles. So buckle up, let's have some fun, and let's just go and get right into it, starting off with our first topic of the day. Last week, we talked about Dragon Quest III HD and the possibility of more HD 2D remakes. Dragon Quest III launched with just some absolutely monstrous numbers. This is just incredibly impressive because more than 800,000 copies were sold in Japan for just its first week alone. And that's only the physical units. We don't even know the digital numbers. So again, just wow. And I think that's a pretty good sign that Square Enix, we'll possibly look into making more of these HD 2D remakes. Seems like a fairly logical decision after all of that, but Square Enix is seemingly going to go about this in a very strategical way. They responded to the idea of more HD 2D games, and they said if we were to release too many games in succession, that would lead to people being bored of those games. On the flip side, if there's too much of a span between launches, that can also lead to the series not seeming as vibrant and robust anymore. It's a sensitive topic. It's something that even my supervisors are constantly unsure and mulling over. So, this basically tells us that they will do more of these games, but they're not going to necessarily pump out a wave of HD 2D games every single year. They're instead probably going to stick with what they've mostly been doing already, and that's a slow rollout. We might see one or maybe two HD 2D games a year, but honestly, I'm not necessarily against that. I think there is truth in this statement that, if they pump out too many games too fast, that could negatively impact consumer interest to the point that certain games would fail. So with that in mind, I think the main question kind of becomes, just which games should they prioritize first? I think the two most requested games would probably be Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, so I'd like to see those come a little bit sooner rather than later. But Square Enix just has such a massive backlog of games that they could work with, and it seems like a part of their strategy is to revitalize certain games that you might not necessarily expect. Games like Live Alive HD and Star Ocean Second Story R, they might not have as much request as games that I just mentioned, but they are very good HD 2D games, and they're welcome as well. I'd like to hear from you all about this, though. Which Square Enix games would you most like to see get the HD 2D treatment first? Now, we also got some new information from Activision on Call of Duty Black Ops 6. There's a lot of interest in how this specific entry will do with its Xbox Game Pass inclusion. This is a big change for a historically very successful franchise, a game that tends to be a top seller every single year. And for such a long time, there has been a concern that its Game Pass inclusion could possibly negatively impact its overall sales numbers. But from what we've seen so far, that hasn't been the case. Last week, Circana confirmed that Call of Duty is up year over year, and it's even led to a boost in subscription spending. Now, we should probably attribute some of that to Black Ops 6, just being a better game than Modern Warfare 3, but we got some more information from Activision themselves, as they just stated in the first 30 days from launch, together the community made Black Ops 6 the biggest Call of Duty ever. It's number one in total players, it's number one in total hours played, and it's also number one in total matches played. So, it's not just simply up year over year. These are all-time highs for some very significant categories. Clearly, its Game Pass inclusion has had a major impact on some very important categories for Call of Duty. Its 30 million subscribers has contributed to what appears to be a big boost in players for Call of Duty. And the reason that is significant for a series like this is because Call of Duty does have microtransactions. The larger reach that it has, the more opportunity it has to sell microtransactions. So, I mean, yeah, it looks like Microsoft and Activision are probably fairly happy with this new Day 1 Call of Duty Game Pass experiment. Okay, now moving on here, I think one of the most exciting trends in gaming right now is the addition of powerful handheld consoles. In the last few years, we've seen a multitude of these PC gaming handhelds, like the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, and the Lenovo Legion Go. We're also expecting the Nintendo Switch successor to be a pretty big upgrade over the current Switch next year. And what we've ultimately seen is that these platforms are powerful enough to run a lot of these modern AAA games. That is just so incredible to me. I mean, growing up on consoles like the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance, the DS, 3DS, all of these consoles, they were amazing in their own way, but to think that we are now at a point where we can play these big AAA games on a handheld, that to me is just so incredible to think about. Now, they might not necessarily perform as good as home consoles or PC rigs per se, but they are capable machines, and this technology is moving just so incredibly fast right now. So there is a lot of interest to see where it'll be in a few years, and this also kind of begs the question, will companies like Xbox and PlayStation enter the fray with their own handheld devices? Well, Xbox, Phil Spencer, has already confirmed that they are experimenting with a handheld, albeit it's still years away from an actual release if they proceed with said plan. And now we also have more information that Sony is doing the exact same thing themselves. Now, this is currently only a rumor, but according to Bloomberg, they said that Sony is also working on their own handheld that will play PlayStation 5 games with native functionality. That's the important part, and it's currently in its early stages. They went on to say that Sony's portable device is likely years away from launch, and the company could still decide against bringing it to market, the people said, asking not to be named, discussing private plans. Now, apparently, this decision was made after the release of the PlayStation Portal, which has actually outperformed Sony's expectations. I mean, if a remote playing device, which a lot of people would consider as a niche device, can sell as well that it has, then yeah, a native PlayStation handheld console kind of seems like a no-brainer. Sony has received the message loud and clear from fans. We want a handheld PlayStation. Now again, it sounds like this console will still be years away if they even decide to proceed with it. But from all indication, we are entering the golden era for handheld gaming. I mean, by 2030, there is a very good chance that we could have a legitimate handheld for Nintendo, for Xbox, PlayStation, and also for Steam. And with just how fast this technology is advancing, I'd say there's a lot to be excited about if you like handheld gaming. Okay, now let's go and shift gears here for a moment, because one of PlayStation's most important exclusive franchises since 2020 could be heading over to Xbox sometime in the future. And I'm talking about Final Fantasy, or in this case, more specifically, the Final Fantasy VII Remakes. I mean, Square Enix has made it loud and clear that they at least want Final Fantasy XVI on Xbox. They've teased that multiple times throughout this past year, and we've discussed that at great length on the channel. This will be a part of their more multi-platform strategy that they're currently emphasizing within Square Enix. But there still has been this question for the Final Fantasy VII remakes. We haven't heard as much about those games, and there is a question about Sony's contract. Is there a chance that Sony locked down that entire trilogy? And that's something that we still don't really know. But Square Enix, once again, is making it loud and clear that they are done with their PlayStation exclusive strategy that we've seen these past 4 years. The Final Fantasy VII Remake director recently said, in terms of Final Fantasy VII, there's nothing really we can say at the moment, but certainly I do want to bring Final Fantasy VII and the Remake series to as many players out there as possible. So we want to create that situation, that environment where more players can play the games in future, and we want to look in that direction. In the past, Square Enix put out a game in one place and got most of the players coming to that game to play it on that platform. It's so much more diversified now, so I think that's probably why our CEO, Mr. Kiryu, made that decision to move more in the direction of multi-platform. That's just the way the industry is going. This is just a personal opinion now, but I've got an Xbox myself. I think it's a great hardware platform. I do like Xbox. So these are all pretty strong indications that the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy will indeed come over to more platforms in the future. And I mean, you can kind of read between the lines. There's only 2 platforms that Part 1 isn't already on: Xbox and Nintendo. Now, Rebirth, that still hasn't launched on PC, but we do know that that is eventually going to happen. Now, will the Nintendo Switch successor be capable enough to play these games? I think that's a very interesting question to maybe think about. I do think that there's a chance with the addition of DLSS. At the very least, it should be capable of the original Final Fantasy VII Remake, which launched on the PlayStation 4. The Switch successor supposedly is, on par with PlayStation 4 technology, but with the addition of DLSS, it makes it even more interesting. However, an Xbox release, that seems all but confirmed by this point. It's now more of a when is all this going to happen rather than if. And I mean, there's even a chance that Final Fantasy VII Part 3 could launch simultaneously across all platforms on day one. I mean, unless Sony somehow locked that game down before Square Enix's new CEO changed to this multi-platform strategy, then a simultaneous launch seems fairly possible. If anything else, though, Square Enix is all in on this multi-platform strategy, and from the looks of it, the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy is very much a part of those plans. And that's incredible news because these are amazing games. And, I'm really happy to hear that there's a very good chance that more people will be able to enjoy them sometime in the future. Now, one last thing before we go, rumors for a December PlayStation showcase continues to ramp up online. This all started with a recent PlayStation ad, Play Has No Limits. As a part of that ad, a date was found hidden in a train station billboard. I'll go and show that on screen here, and interestingly, it lists December 3rd, 2024, which that aligns with the 30th PlayStation anniversary. Now, PlayStation has held anniversary events in the past, so it's not really a far-fetched idea to speculate that they could possibly be teasing a 30th anniversary showcase. In fact, there's been various rumors that claims Sony has some beloved IP announcements for the nearest future. If that's true, those will be perfect announcements for an event like this. Well, the thing is that Bilbo Kuhn has given us more information. Now, Bilbo Kuhn is a very reputable leaker, really a golden standard in the industry right now, and they leaked some new accessories that PlayStation has yet to announce. This includes a black dual-edge controller, a black Pulse Elite headset, and black Explorer wireless headphones. He noted that they don't know when they'll be announced, but they do expect them to be revealed within a month, which, again, could possibly correspond with their rumored 30th anniversary showcase. I mean, if anything else here, if that December 3rd date holds up, then we should hear about this relatively soon. As always, I'll keep you updated as we learn more, which, it's all the more reason to hit that subscribe button below. Let's make it happen. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, peace out.